There's so much talk about AI code generation and things like ChatGPT, and why game developers need to be scared because it's a threat to them, and how it's going to bring a wave of people making video games so much more easily that it's going to threaten current game developers' ability to see a market for their games and to be able to get their games out to the players that want to play them. But honestly, that's a whole load of nonsense, and in my opinion, it's just scaremongering, trying to get views from susceptible game developers and wannabe game developers who are worried about all the time and effort that they're putting into their video games not being rewarded. And in reality, AI code generation and things like ChatGPT are a huge opportunity for all kinds of game developers, new and old alike. You see, the biggest threat to a game developer, solo or even a team, is time. It's time being wasted. And one of the biggest reasons that video games are not successful is because they're never made. Because people end up getting bored, or teams end up burning out and not being able to complete the original project the way they set out. So many ideas and dreams are just left in the dust because we ran out of time. And if there's one thing I've learned as a solo game developer, the best thing you can do is maximize your time and find ways to save it in every single way possible. As a fully qualified software engineer, I originally set out to write every single line of code myself, from the game engine all the way through to the animations, everything. But I quickly realized that to create even the most simplest of video games, this was going to take me potentially years to do, especially when I'm trying to fit all that time in between life, day jobs, family, and everything else. Quickly realized that trying to reinvent the wheel every single time over is not the right way to do it. And we have game engines, we have example code, we have tutorials, all for this purpose, for these reasons, to help us save time, to be able to put the attention and focus into the areas that really specialize and make our video games unique. Because that's what's important about video games. That's what makes a video game great or not. And that's what a game developer can put into a video game that nothing else can put into it. Depth. Whether it's depth of story, whether it's the depth of the visuals, or even the soundtrack. What sets about great games from average games are those multiple layers. Layers of thought, layers of intricacy, layers of passion and depth that the player can enjoy and experience themselves. There's nothing worse than a shallow experience, whether it's video games, movie, or anything. And it's the human mind and the human touch that can put in that depth, that can put in those layers of complexity, that can make a piece of art that people will look at and lots of people will see different things and feel different emotions. That can create a video game that will have multiple layers of story and experience in there, and different players can take from it different things. My favorite example being Metal Gear Solid. Some players can go in and experience that as just some dumb spy game, but players that want to get more from it can experience a story of depth, of political awareness, and of commentary about where humanity is heading in the future. This kind of richness cannot be created from AI code generation, at least not yet. And although someone might be able to ask AI to create a more realistic gravity system in their game, or an ability to look through walls and generate that code in a matter of minutes as opposed to hours and even potentially days, having those different pieces of the puzzle doesn't necessarily mean the person is going to make a fantastic game. If you give me a load of random Lego blocks, and then you give those same Lego blocks to an architect, pretty certain the architect is going to create something way better than I ever could. Help with code and code generation tools have been around for ages now. Game engines like Game Maker Studio and even Unity have options for you to be able to generate code using just a graphical user interface and not having to write a single line yourself. And that is no different to this new world of AI code generation. But what this new world of AI code generation does mean is that it can help you save so much time in your video game, enabling you to focus on adding those layers of depth instead of spending countless hours trying to find that pesky bug that just eludes you. Make the AI do the nitty-gritty boring stuff while you can focus on making your code specific to your game. And you can focus on putting personality, rich and depth into your video game as a whole, and get you one step closer to removing the risk of how time can be the biggest threat to your video game even getting made in the first place. But time is not the only risk to you completing your video game. There's also something else that has a massive impact. And to find out what that is, check out this episode right here.